Hello, and welcome to our very first episode of our 2025 live stream series called Wild About Water. My name is Rachel, and I am a watershed health educator here at the Environmental Learning Center, also called the ELC. And I ended up in this position because I really care about our environment and I really enjoy sharing my knowledge and experiences with the community. So I'm very happy to be here with you all today. Today's episode is called Go with the Flow. And throughout this 2025 series, we are going to be exploring the wetland in the wintertime. There's lots to see and discover here, even though some of the plants and animals are being quiet during the winter. There's so much to learn and so much to see. So I hope you can join me during these future episodes to learn about the wetland. Like I said, today's episode is called Go with the Flow, and we will be learning about water here at the wetland. And today I'm standing here at the ELC wetland, and we are located on Clackamas Community College's campus in Oregon City. And it's a 5-acre site, and we've got lots of beautiful native plants and animals and a beautiful flowing waterway that goes through our wetland. So I'm really glad that you can join us. Today's episode, we are going to learn about where water is in nature and what it does. We will discover water in surprising places and learn about the diversity of plants and animals that need the water to survive. So today we're focused on water, and that got me thinking, how do humans use water in our everyday life? It's quite important. Can you think of any of the ways that you might use water at home every day? The first one that comes to my mind is drinking water. We drink water every day to stay hydrated. We also might use water to cook our food or wash our dishes at the end of the day. And so that got me thinking about how water exists in my body. And I looked into it and I found that humans are actually made up of 60% water. So if you look from my toes all the way to the top of my head, we are able to know that over half of me is water, and so are you. Over half of you is water. So, like I said, water is very important to humans, but water is also important to other organisms in the world. So we are going to learn about how water moves through the water cycle, which you may have heard of. But the water cycle is the movement of water both above and below the Earth's surface. And we're going to talk more about that in just a minute. But I want to let you know that you may have an activity sheet in front of you. And on that activity sheet has the name of the episode, Go with the Flow. And it says that water brings life everywhere it goes. So help the water droplet find its way through the water cycle. And a water droplet is it's another word for a small drop of water. So up in the top left of that graphic, you can see our water droplet, and they need your help to find their way through the maze, through all the plants and animals and waterways, down to the finish at the bottom. And below the graphic, we also have our community connections, because at the end of each episode, we want you to be able to take what you've learned and take it back into your community where you can use that knowledge. So you'll fill in the blank today, and it says, clean water is important to plants, animals, and people because blank, and then you'll fill in the blank. So feel free to go through that activity sheet during the episode or just the episode. So getting back to the water cycle, like I said, the water cycle is the movement of water above and below the Earth's surface. So one part of the water cycle that you may be familiar with is precipitation. And here in the wetland, we see rain all the time. Once in a while, we'll even see snow. So if we start with water raining down, that's precipitation. Then once it hits the ground, water collects on the ground in lakes or in puddles maybe. And here at the wetland, we have a pretty good sized body of water here where all the rain collects. So we have precipitation, then we have collection, then we have evaporation, which is a little hard to see sometimes, but today it's cold enough where you can see from my breath, you can see the water vapor evaporating into the air. Well, you could earlier, you might not be able to see it, But another example is a warm cup of tea or hot chocolate. You'll often see the steam rising up, and that is another example of evaporation. So the water rains down in precipitation, it collects, and then when the sun heats it up a little bit, it evaporates. Then once the water goes up into the air, it goes through condensation, where it becomes clouds, and all the water vapors come together to form those gorgeous clouds that you'll see sometimes. There's a few clouds up in the sky today, but not too many, so we're able to let the sun come through. It's really gorgeous here today. So precipitation, collection, evaporation, and condensation up in the clouds. Then the water cycle continues on, and once those clouds get really heavy, it'll rain down again, and the cycle continues. So here in the wetland, we see examples of the water cycle happening every day. But I want to show you a quick little chart of the water cycle on a larger scale that might help you to visualize it in other places. So here we have like a mountainscape, and you can see the rain precipitating down over the mountains. Then the water flows and collects on the ground. Then the water evaporates out of those lakes and rivers, and condensation occurs up in the clouds again and continues the cycle. So it's a cycle that occurs all the time, all over the earth, no matter where you are. So now that we've talked about that, let's take a look around the wetland again and see if there's any other places that we can see water besides in our body of water itself. So let's take a look below my feet. You don't often think about the ground being full of water, but if we take a look at our soil here, it doesn't look too wet, but if we mush it around a little, you can see that it's kind of sticking together, and it leaves a little bit of water and dirt on my hands, and it's made the paper towel a little wet today. So when it rains and the water doesn't go into a lake or a pond, it can actually soak into the ground. And when it soaks into the ground, it will then be able to be taken up by plants. And plants use these things called roots. And the roots are the underground part of the plant that grows down into the ground, and they suck up water, and it brings in the water so they can use it to grow and thrive. So these roots are really important, and they help plants to take up water. Another example of a plant that uses water is moss. So I've got a big piece of moss here to show you, and it's been sitting on this paper towel, which is also wet now, because moss is like a sponge. It can absorb water. Some mosses can actually absorb between 20 and 30 times their weight in water. It's really impressive. So it may not look wet, but it's getting my fingers all wet and the paper towel. They're really amazing plants because they can grow all over the place, and they are able to absorb lots of water. Another creature you may see here at the wetland that is good at using water are insects. Have you ever seen an insect maybe in the water or using water? You don't often see them drinking water like humans do, but lots of insects will lay their eggs in the water and spend the first parts of their life in the water. Some insects will also eat plants, and like we learned just a minute ago, there is water in plants. So insects will eat those plants, and that's how they get their water. Another example of a plant that may have water is a snowberry, which is a plant that you'll see around here at the ELC. And these are the berries from a snowberry. Now, they look really dry. They just are normal berries. There's no water below it. But if you open it up, can you see those bubbles kind of out? If you open up the berries, it's actually all wet inside. So that's another great example of a plant that uses water. So, do we think that there's water in a bird? Or another type of bird, a duck. Have you ever seen any of these ducks in the water or around the water? I see lots of ducks in the water every day here at the ELC. There may be some you can see behind me right now. There's lots of ducks, and this is a belted kingfisher, which you can see sometimes fishing in the water. So these birds will often eat other bugs and plants that contain water, and that's how they are able to take in water. Just like humans, ducks are made up of quite a bit of water, just over half. Half of their body is made of water. So the next thing I want to talk to you about were some other creatures and animals that our community sees here at the Environmental Learning Center. So some of these animals are very dependent on the water, and hopefully you can see a photo of some mallards now. So mallards are ducks. They really rely on the water here at the Environmental Learning Center because they use it to swim around and to look for food. And they also use the water to hide from predators. So they're able to get away from predators sometimes by going in the water and swimming away. And in this photo, you can also see lots of plants growing around. Like we know from earlier, plants really need water. And the water helps the plants to grow strong right there on the edge of the bank. And that's where ducks are able to nest and raise their young. So water is very important to mallards. Our next creature here that you might find at the ELC is a nutria. And it is a type of rodent. It looks like a beaver, but it's not. It is similar. It is a rodent. This is a semi-aquatic rodent that spends part of its time in the water and part of its time on land. And they're dependent on the water, not only because they live in the water, but also because they eat the plants that grow near that water. Our next animal that you'll see here at the ELC is a great blue heron, and they spend a lot of time in water, particularly looking for food. So the water helps them to find food here in the wetland. One of my favorites is a dragonfly, and they're really unique because they spend the first part of their lives in the water. So their eggs are laid in the water, then they grow up a little bit to become nymphs, and then they will eventually come out of the water and become these adult dragonflies that you see in the photo. Then the cycle continues, and those adults will lay their eggs in the water again. So without the water, the dragonfly would not be able to survive. Now, this next photo, it's kind of hard to see what animal is in it, but I will give you a moment to take a look. And if you've got good eyes, you might be able to find this creature. So go ahead and take a look. All right, so you may have been able to spot a frog right there in that yellow circle. They're hiding really well in all of those plants and the water and the mud. So it's quite hard to see, but I've got some closer pictures for you. This is a northern red-legged frog. They used to be more abundant here at the ELC, but their species has declined over time. But in the past couple years, we have actually seen a northern red-legged frog and even an egg mass, which means that hopefully they will continue to thrive and grow, and we'll have lots more northern red-legged frogs here at the ELC. So that brings us to the end of our time here and our very first episode of our live stream. And now is the time to ask questions. So if you have any questions, please send them into the chat and I would be super happy to answer them. No questions quite yet. Hopefully you're thinking of some good ones. Anything at all, I'm happy to answer. And if you have questions, that's okay too. All right. Well, if you have any questions, we can answer them next time, or you can send us an email. But our time has come to an end here at our first episode of the Wild About Water series. So I'm so glad that you were able to join us, and I hope that you can join us next time where we will get to learn about macroinvertebrates, and I will be going in the wetland to help find some of those macroinvertebrates. So I really hope you can join me. Till next time, stay curious, get outside to explore, and I'll see you around the wetland.